Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and before I get into what Steven Narioff's, the document that Steven Narioff's attorney just leaked, in fact, let me write this down, leaked document, man, they're going to kill him with 1,000 paper cuts, folks. I mean, maybe that's a thumbnail too. This thing is about open, wide open. Let's listen to Jim Rickards before we get going here, folks.
We're going to have a common currency, and it will be, now here, this is important. I would say gold linked. There was a lot of misunderstanding about this. Everyone's saying gold backed, get your BRICS unit. Let's call it a brick. I mean, I don't know what they're going to call it, but, 1 unit is defined as a weight of gold, and we don't know what the weight is, so I'll just say an ounce. It could be a kilo. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't know what the weight is, but 1 unit would be defined as a weight of gold. So let's say 1 brick, if you want to call it that, equals 1 ounce of gold. Now here I go back to Aristotle, who kind of invented the transitive law. And this is the brilliance, and this is all Russia behind it. This is, they didn't invent chess, but it is their national sport. So if you say 1 brick equals an ounce of gold, and the weight doesn't matter, just again, it's just math. And we know that a weight of gold has a dollar value because the global gold market is in dollars, and you can buy gold with euros, but all the pricing, the futures, the derivatives, the unallocated forwards, all the junk that JP Morgan sells, all that is in dollars. So, if a brick equals an ounce of gold, an ounce of gold equals, today, whatever, 1950, give or take, through a simple transitive law, you get a brick dollar exchange rate. But here's the key. You're not linking the brick to the dollar. You're linking the brick to a weight of gold, which means that as the dollar value of gold fluctuates and 1 brick is pegged to gold, the brick dollar exchange rate is floating through a transitive law, but the bricks don't have to do any work. In other words, make the dollar investors in the United States do all the dirty work. They have to maintain the market. They got to speculate. They got to hedge. They got to commit capital. The bricks are just free riders. They just sit there and say, "Hey, we're an ounce of gold. Gold, what is it today? Let's take a look." So that's part of the brilliance of this. And by the way, this is exactly what John Maynard Keynes proposed to Bretton Woods.
He invoked Bretton Woods too. That's thumbnail worthy as well. Now, what is the one common thread? Every time they have one of these Bretton Woods, what's always involved? And that is gold. That's why I have a gold sponsor now, Miles Franklin. That's why you can look in the description and you can call the number or email them for the best price and use the code DAI GOLD. All right? I do it. You should do it. Okay, check this out. This is an ETHgate leak, folks. Look at what they are saying here. I'm not going to read that document, but Wheezy says it like, wow. So lady was an informant of the SEC that basically framed Steven Narioff. Wow. That POS, and I ain't talking about proof of stake. Folks, this was, what's the date here? November 9th, 2018. And all of this stuff was going on right around the time. Folks, look at that. Look at this date. Mr. Daniels had been one of 2 SEC enforcement attorneys present during Mr. Narioff's interview, February 2018. That's literally a month after, this is a month after Jay Clayton meets at Andreessen and Horowitz's office and tells them to put a safe harbor memo together. So I want to know who sent them to him and why. Check this out. Did the powers that be just honeypot all the greedy bastards who sit in positions of authority in the United States using Ethereum, while also creating a narrative of BS around XRP, which was never true to begin with? This is why I'm an XRP maxi. I don't care about anything else. Ethereum honeypot. That's a thumbnail right there. Honeypot. Man, I can't even imagine what we're about to start getting out of the Stephen Narioff and his attorney. If I were them, if you're listening out there, Stephen Narioff, an attorney, if you're listening, the way to do it is 1,000 paper cuts. Leak out a piece here, a piece here, a piece here. Get this ball rolling. Now, this is interesting. Why have we never taken a closer look at Peter Thiel? A guy who thinks it's right to create monopolies, a guy, and I'm not saying Peter Thiel did anything wrong, by the way, folks. A guy who had contact with Clayton, a guy who worked together with Hinman on the board of Facebook, who supported not only Buterin, but also Lubin with funds. 0 to 1, myths about competition and monopoly. Part 2, episode 97, technocrat Joseph Lubin tied to Peter Thiel forms partnerships with Visa through his company Consensus to accelerate the adoption of CBDC. Among those whom Clayton was in touch with was Peter Thiel, a Trump donor, and Silicon Valley entrepreneur who co-founded Palantir Technologies and was contract with SEC that Clayton may one day have to review. Zuckerberg, Andreessen, Bowles, Desmond Hellman, Hastings, and Thiel. Facebook board right here. Interesting thoughts. Look at Ashley Prosper. If anyone from the Ethereum Foundation or Consensus committed any of the following crimes related to the Ethereum and the ICO, they are not out of the woods yet. The government still has at least 1 year to bring charges if it wants to. I wouldn't be so self-assured if I were Joseph Lubin. Then we've got this. Eleanor Terrett, who I've told you in the past, and I still say Eleanor Terrett has always been a fair reporter. But this morning she was putting out a scoop about something going on in New York with crypto, and I said, wrong scoop. Eleanor, this is the scoop. These are the moments that make careers. Ask Woodward and Bernstein. Don't miss it. She deleted her tweet afterwards. I don't know if it had anything to do with that or not. And then I forwarded it on to Tucker Carlson. I said, if they don't want the scoop, it's yours on a silver platter. John Deaton would get you millions of views. And Real XRP Boy corrects me. He says more like 100 million views. This touches the lives of every American investor. And not only that, it's on a global level, bigger than Madoff. They attempted to control the next generation financial system. And then we have this. Today, this came out, folks. Banking giant Citi will transform customers' deposits into digital tokens that can be sent instantly anywhere in the world. And this was from a week ago. JP Morgan mulls blockchain-based deposit token. JP Morgan considers issuing digital token for cross-border payments and settlement. Right? What a coincidence, folks. They've both been working on tokens while Ripple's been tied up in an SEC lawsuit. Remember this clip from Cowboy Crypto? I do.
Messages to banks that have liquidity. So to some degree, Citibank and HSBC, really the top two, JPM, those are the top three liquidity banks. And when you're sending SWIFT messages, you're sending messages to banks to release liquidity and making sure the debits and credits match. So to some degree, really boil it down, Ripple's competing with the liquidity of Citi and the messaging of SWIFT, but in one, because we're both messaging and liquidity.
What do you know? And then, of course, this was from Ashley Prosper. This was Brad Garlinghouse. I believe, don't quote me, I think this was December 2017. Brad Garlinghouse at MIT.
When we talk about Jamie Dimon, we first have to recognize where he sits. He sits at the top of the global financial infrastructure. There are a few banks, of which JPM is certainly one, that make billions and billions of dollars of profit by virtue of that perch. 99.9% of banks don't make money in this ecosystem in terms of cross-border payments. Jamie Dimon makes a technical term of a shit ton of money by sitting there. So when I hear Jamie Dimon saying he's a fraud, I think to myself, well, of course he's going to say that. He's talking. I mean, and by the way, there's also people who conspiratorially, he's trying to talk down the price of Bitcoin so JPM can buy it. Like the idea that JP Morgan isn't actively working in the blockchain and Bitcoin space is not true. Frankly, I don't mind sharing. There are about 15 senior JP Morgan people at Ripple's offices this afternoon. Now, unless JP Morgan's going to fire them.
Does JP Dimon know that?
Apparently not. Anyway, so look, that's my thought on the whole JP Dimon thing. I do think there are people who are going to say this is, in the same manner, a very smart investor said to me, in 1997, the whole West Coast was long Amazon and the whole East Coast was shorting Amazon. We saw how that worked out. And his point was basically, look, the West Coast is obviously bullish and, there's some that are very cynical about these things and, we'll see how it works out. On the risk factor, just very briefly, because I don't want to go on too long, but I think what we have to remind ourselves that this has to come back to utility. What problem is the digital asset solving? If it's solving a real problem and it's creating value by solving that problem, then there will be value in the token. I think what's risky is there's a lot of these things, as Juan was saying, that I cannot explain why you need a token. I can't explain what the token does. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I think, unfortunately, I think that percentage, particularly in the recent ICO wave, I think that percentage is a very high percentage. I think there is going to be carnage to be had from that. And I think Grant is smarter than I am in many ways, not the least of which is on the law. But, the ICOs, regulation around, the SEC regulation around securities are designed to protect investors.
So now we have a JP Morgan announcement. We have a Citigroup announcement. And I have one question. When Bank of America? I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and ask your friends and family when Bank of America. Thanks for listening.